Okay, so this painting is from a distant autumn trees tutorial that I've not long done, and what I thought I'd do is work to show you how to build up the trees with a stippling technique using a hog hair brush and a sponging technique using a natural sponge. So I'm just going to walk you through these two techniques on this picture, so if you've got to that stage and you want to build up your trees, you can do. So first of all, I have got my stipple brush, and I'm going to come back to the alizarin crimson. So you need this paint to be fairly thick, so not too much water in it. I'm going to dab off a little bit on kitchen towel, and then I can come in and just stipple. So it's a dabbing action, and you're going to build up. I tend to arch a little bit with the shape of the tree. You've got that base there from the wet in wet. This is now building this up. So there's very little water in this paint. There is a bit because I don't want it to be so thick that you can't see through it. I want to see the colour underneath. But you can already see that that has built up a little bit more. I'm going to go this way so you can see this on the palette definition. I'm going to dip into now some sepia and just bring that through as well. It's always good to start with the lightest colour and then work darker. So you can see how thick this is. I'm taking a tiny bit and working it through using the arching motion, and then keeping that really to the centre. I can do a little bit under here. So this is drier, so this is to show you drier now. So that one was a bit wetter with the alizarin, this is a bit drier. So the brush is only damp and I've come in straight to the sepia and then come on there. If I go into, this is some gamboge yellow, start to build that up a little bit. You can see that the texture is lighter, it's more speckled. So it's just how much water you put on the brush and in the paint at that point and how wet you get it, that changes how it looks. I'm going to come into a little bit of this alizarin crimson. Just come into this one a little bit as well. A great tip as well is if you keep a tree smaller, you can have ones behind that appear behind as well, so you get that softness behind. If I keep that smaller, that works really nicely. So let's go on to sponging. So the sponge is dry at this point. I'm going to dip it into some water, I'm going to wring it out. So I've wrung it out, I've got lots of bubbly bits, that's what you're looking for with a sponge. Then I'm going to dab it on some kitchen towel. You want to get as much water out of that mix as you can. It's now not wet, but it's movable. With the natural sponge, it doesn't move very well unless you have wet it. I'm then going to dip into this paint. So the paint's fairly thick. There is a little bit of water in there, and you can see it on the sponge. And then I'm going to dab on. If you squeeze the sponge, if you've got a smaller area, that works really nicely because you can get in. Then what you'll notice I'm doing is I'm dabbing down, moving, dabbing down, moving, dabbing down. And what that does is give you a different pattern. You don't want to create the same pattern on every dab. You see there you've got a really nice effect on that tree. If I dab into a little bit of the gamboge yellow, so you can take two colours onto the sponge, and I can bring that through the one next to it. That same technique. You've just got to be careful with the sponge that you're being delicate and you don't get it too wet. If it gets too wet, you're better to dry it and then come back in again. I'll do a smaller tree there. So you've got 3 stippling, 3 with the sponge.